Psalm 45. 45. My heart is overflowing with a good theme. I will recite my conversation concerning the king. My tongue is the pen of a ready writer. You are fairer than the sons of men. Grace is poured upon your lips. Therefore God has blessed you forever. Gird your sword upon your thigh, O mighty one, with your glory and majesty, and in majesty right prosper because of truth, humility, and righteousness, and your right hand shall teach you awesome things. Your arrows are sharp in the hearts of the king's enemies. Peoples fall under you. Your throne, O God, is forever and ever. A scepter, righteous, a scepter of your kingdom. You love righteous and hate wicked. Therefore God, your God, has anointed with oil with gladness more than your companions. All your garments from the center with myrrh and aloes acacia. Out of the ivory palace which I made you glad. King's daughters among you women. At your right hand stands the queen and God from afar. Listen, daughter, consider and incline you. Forget you and people in your father's house. So the king will greatly desire your beauty. Because you, Lord, worship him, and a daughter thy will be there with a gift. Direction among the people who seek your favor. The warrior daughter is all glorious within her palace. Her clothing is woven with gold. She shall be brought to the king in robes of many colors. The virgins and companions who follow her shall be brought to you. With gladness and rejoicing they shall be brought, and they shall enter the king's palace. Instead of your fathers shall be your sons, whom you shall make princes in all the earth. I will make your name to remember in all generations. Therefore the people shall praise you forever and ever. Psalm 45, very long psalm. It's a long psalm. It's a famous psalm. For a long time, I really didn't know what this psalm was about. I remember the first time when I was learning the psalm, when I was memorizing the psalm years ago. Oh, that's probably like 8 years ago. And I was like, what is this psalm on about? What is this? What's this with the king and the majesty and who are we addressing? Who's the subject? Um, the daughter. And I asked one of the fathers, I'm like, you got to help me explain this psalm. And he wasn't 100% confident, but I do remember him saying that there are certainly some references here to Saint Mary, to Saint Mary. But essentially, what this psalm is about, um, it's showing, the relationship between the bridegroom and the bride. So the bridegroom being Christ, the King. Say verse 1, the King, and the church. The bride is the church. Of course, there are other interpretations. It's definitely a messianic psalm, no doubt about that. We'll touch upon that. But it's a royal psalm. It's a feast of, psalm for the royalty, for honor, for glory, for joy. Um, it's a crowning psalm, a psalm for weddings, for like crowning. So I thought that's interesting. It's in terms of the Coptic Orthodox Church, it's sung or prayed on at several of the feasts of Saint Mary. Saint Mary, I think, has 7 feasts. Used in crowning, so that's wedding feast. I'm guessing it's used in the using the actual gospel psalm. We can check that. Actually, I'm not, because I don't attend many weddings. Probably attend like two or three in my life, and it's good. As a monk, you don't really attend, which is good. I'm not sure. It's certainly not the main psalm of the gospel. It's not in the prayer in the psalm before the gospel. I'm not sure. Maybe it's in one of the earlier prayers, or I don't attend many weddings. Someone maybe knows that when they can help me with that. So definitely a prophecy, like we're saying, it's messianic psalm, prophecy of Christ as the future king, and his kingdom will be forever and ever. Verse 6. And we mentioned the bridegroom. Let's get to the title because it's a long psalm. The glories of the Messiah and his bride. To the chief musician, said to the lilies, a contemplation of the sons of Korah, a song of love. So this is like the original love song, the original love song, not like we see on today, which are not really loving, very loving. Probably you could call them more lustful songs. The lilies, it's like one of these, flower kind of flower things. But I think the symbolism here, like Amber Yusuf says, it's the bride, the bride of Christ. We're like the lilies, okay, because we're the bride. And it's divided into two main sections, talking about the king, and the Messiah, the bridegroom, and then the other second half is the bride, which is us, the church, related to Saint Mary as well. Possibly, you get the two kind of themes there. So it's a joyous celebration. And so read verse 1. My heart is overflowing with a good theme. I saw my composition containing the king. My tongue is the pen of a ready writer. So we see it's really about joy. It's not just, it's overflow. When something is like, you can be joyful, but then you can have like an overflowing with joy. And you see the difference in expression. When I was just working on the book, Father Emmanuel Suriani, the ecstatic monk, when he wanted to become a monk, and then because he had like this longing to become a monk, there's a section of the longing to become a monk, longing for monasticism, and then he was working out that he was going to be accepted as a novice, and he was like the text is like overflowing with joy. It's like not just joy. It's like serious joy, or very very joyful. So it's like kind of like the overflowing with joy, and it's also used in the mass. Um, the word like overflowing with the grace. Um, and one of the prayers, especially because it's still in Great Lent, the conclusion prayer in Coptic Somatos, Geamatos, is let us give thanks and like joyful for the holy body and blood that we have just partaken of. And then he repeats it again. Maybe we'll quickly get it because we're still in that. So here it is. The body and blood having, like just partaken, let us give thanks to him. Okay, and what do? We sing praises. Joyful. Obviously, praises are joyful. Daniels and orders the choir of him. Okay, so I thought that's a nice reflection. Even in there are a couple of things in the mass as well that we do, which are overflowing. We're trying to overflowing with the joy, like the priest towards the end, he takes water in his hands, and this is related to the book of Ezekiel, who was kind of like drowning in the water. So and it has an overflow. So this special grace makes us joyful. Um, it's about, like we said, it's about the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, not about King Solomon. We don't know exactly who wrote this psalm. Not written by David, at least. Contemplation of the sons of Korah. Not all the psalms are written by David, but any of the Jews, obviously they say it's not directed to Christ, not a prophecy about Christ the Messiah. Let's say it's about could be King Solomon. But the main reason that we object, Coptic Orthodox objects to this opinion, is that it says, verse 6, your throne of God is forever and ever, except the righteous scepter of a kingdom. So how can this refer to King Solomon? His throne did not reign forever and not reign forever and ever. And other verses too, which I'll touch on. And we see here, my tongue is the pen of a ready writer. So like our tongue is a reflection of our heart. So when let's say in English, what's important to you is what you talk about. So if God is important to you and it's overflowing with a good theme, I'm going to talk about with my tongue good things. I'm ready to talk about it, like a pen of ready writer. And also like I'm ready to write down all these good things about God. Verse 2, you are fairer than the sons of men. Grace is upon your lips. therefore God has blessed you forever. So it's obviously talking about how like God is beautiful, Christ, the Kikun Messiah is beautiful, Christ is beautiful. But and like many other things, it's not just about the outward beauty; it's about the inward beauty, and that's far more important. Far more important. Um, you see, for a classic example of Leah, comparing Leah and Rachel was beautiful outwardly, but Leah not so much. And they use delicate, the translation is delicate eyes or weak eyes. But who had a better character? Who had a better character? Leah. And and Christ came out of which descended from which from which line? From the line of Leah, not the line of Rachel, because I think she had a better moral character. Of course, she had sins, but Rachel certainly had her flaws. So the internal beauty is more important. Even I was just reading a story of I've read it before, but a story of a famous French martyr Blandina, and what's probably she's not quite famous, not famously known for, at least according to the tradition. She was not very beautiful, but she was a great character. You read that in the footnote. She was kind of known for not being so beautiful. Of course, they say it politely, like not ugly, but like not so pretty. But her character, internal character, was amazing. Was very, very beautiful, very, very fair. And there's nothing more beautiful than that. And there's no comparison. Nothing more beautiful than that. Nothing more beautiful than Christ. Um, and we see grace is poured upon your lips. So, and we see in John 1 how the word of God and grace was upon his lips. The Gospel of John, it's read in every morning prayer, which every Christian, Coptic Orthodox person should do. It's just talking about the grace a few times. The Word of God, glory to the Son, the Father, Christ, full of grace and truth. Okay, and we received and grace for grace. So we receive the grace from Christ, who was grace poured upon your lips. What is this? God has blessed you forever. I don't want to get too theological, but it's talking about basically how we receive, we're like sons of God by adoption, and Christ is through his nature, and therefore God has blessed him in that term. They're kind of like through the nature. I'm not a huge fan of getting too technical theologically. Also, you see in Luke 4:22, topic is about grace as well. So all bore witness to him, Christ, and marveled at the gracious words proceeded out of his mouth, and they said, "Is this not Joseph's son?" So remember, Christ is the one who spoke with authority. You know, when they say no one ever spoke like this, spoke with authority, because it's unique. It never came before. Never came before. No one ever spoke like him. That's why his lips, upon his lips, he had the grace to speak like that. But it's God incarnate. Verse 4, 3. Gird your sword upon your thigh, and mighty one, you with the glory and majesty. So with the sword, a couple of things. It got, it's said that God is a man of war. In one sense, yes, that's true. He's a man of war because he's powerful. So that's the reflection of the sword. And he's obviously mighty. Christ is high and mighty, sitting on his throne, Isaiah 6:1, and I think in other verses as well. But the other important symbolism is talking about prophetic word is about the cross. The cross. It's symbolic of the cross because the cross is victory. It's power over death. So he was a great form of power there, and like the sword, it's a form of it's like a weapon power, sign of victory. Verse 4. And in majesty, right prosperity, because of truth, humility, and righteousness, and your right hand shall teach you awesome things. I really love the word awesome. Um, yeah, other translation is I think it's fearful. Um, with fearful. Um, so I'm just reading the NIV because I'm reading the NIV at the moment. Um, Let your right hand display awesome deeds. Awesome deeds. Okay. So that makes it a bit more clear. Um, verse 3 again, 4 again. And you right hand should teach them awesome things. Yeah, because it's like, it's a bit weird. It says the word teach. Why would it say the word teach here? But probably a more accurate translation. Sometimes Duke and James is not 100%. I guess no translation is 100% from the usual. Um, and your majesty, ride forth victoriously on behalf of truth, humility, and righteousness. Let your right hand display awesome deeds. Yeah, display rather than teach. Rather than teach. And I love the word awesome. I just love it. It's in the Mass a couple of times. It's in some Psalms. It's coming up in Psalm, I think it's Psalm 47. For Lord Most High is awesome. Um, in the Mass it says awesome, full of glory. Yeah, it's just Christ is awesome. It's awesome, and it's coming also from the word like we have reverence and fear towards him. The verse, yeah, and Christ being mighty comes from the good characteristics: truth, humility, and righteousness. Okay, not obviously from false things, from pride, or from wickedness. Okay, these are the characteristics of Christ, and we try to emulate them, try to imitate them as much as we can, as much as we can. And of course, the Jewish king, they're not looking for that. The Messiah, then it's not they'll have the Messiah. What they expect from the Messiah, the Jews, they're expecting power, and kind of like force, and even like he's riding on not on a donkey, not humility. That's not what they want. They want him to be powerful looking. They don't want to be humble. They kind of want him to be, I guess, arrogant in a way. They want him to be riding on the chariots, okay, on the horses. They want to show humility. That's not born in a manger. That goes against the plan, okay. But that's not how Christ does it. Verse 5, yeah, arrows are sharp in the heart of the king's enemies. The people shall fall under you. Again, we see the power here of God, like God is strong, Christ is strong. But the other thing, the people fall down under you, meaning everyone is under the submission to God in the end. So, and I love that verse in where it says, every tongue shall, and every knee shall bow, every tongue, I'll forget it properly because I'm losing it. Philippians 2:10, that the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow, of those in heaven or on those on earth, and of those under the earth. And that every tongue should confess that Jesus Christ is the Lord to the glory of God. So everyone will bow down, those and those earth. Okay, especially on the day of judgment. So everyone that's powerful, like in Psalm 2, the kings that think that they're doing they're more powerful than God, he laughs. Christ laughs. Um, okay, so and then verse 6 is your throne of God is forever and ever, which is very famous for in the Coptic Orthodox Church for being the like the royal hymn for sung on Passion Week, Holy Week, Good Friday, the 12th hour, the burial, and also in Tuesday morning. So these are like the royal hymns, and yeah, just to contemplate on your throne of God is forever and ever. Takes very long. The hymn sometimes does feel like it's going forever because it goes for like almost 20 minutes. Um, but the contemplation is good. It's long. It's good. I don't know the hymn, by the way. No, not that great at hymns. Um, and yeah, and like we said, this verse obviously applies to the Messiah, Christ, not not King Solomon or any other earthly king, because no earthly king is going to reign forever and ever. Never, never. Verse 7, your love righteous, hate wickedness, therefore God, your God has anointed you with the oil of gladness more than your companions. Then verse 8, all your garments are scented with myrrh and aloes and cassia out of the ivory palace which they made you glad. So the myrrh is referring to like the death of Christ, the suffering of Christ, kind of like the crucifixion. And it's one of the gifts. So yeah, like one of the gifts that wise men offered God, frankincense and myrrh. And on the Thursday, Theotokea, company of the church, they offered him frankincense for his God and God for his king, and myrrh as a sign of his life-giving death. Okay, so you get the answer to the three there. Frankincense for his God, God for his king, and myrrh, sign of his life-giving death. I'm trying to wrap up the psalm. Yeah, there are contemplations as well about what are aloes and cassia. Like the cassia kind of relate to the word water, and the water is related to baptism, like redemption. Verse like 8, are the ivory palace which they made you glad. So it's just interesting because the word ivory, the item, the material ivory is very, very expensive. It's very rare. That's the key reason why it's also so expensive. And most famously, you get ivory from the tusks of elephants. I think the African elephants because they're longer. It can be found, of course, in other animals, and even a lot of other small things, and like even anything essentially, a lot of ivories and a lot of things. But that's very valuable. And the reason that they kill elephants, like you could say, why don't just cut off the tusk? But the reason the what do you call it, the looters or hunters, people that want to try to make money, they'll kill the elephant because about a third of it goes in more. So if you don't kill it, you lose about a third of the tusk, and it takes a long time to really grow. So you might as well just, it's to them, might as well just kill it, take out the whole tusk, sell it, make a lot of money. Make a lot of money. So yeah, ivory is very rare, and it's used in the palace. Again, it's a reflection of the royalty, of the glory, kind of like the gold standard of a wedding. When you have a wedding, you want to make it the best, the most presenting, put the flowers and decoration and whatever else people do, females do at weddings. Verse 9, king's daughters are among honorable women. At your right hand stands the queen in gold from a fir. A gold, like we said, is kind of like the gold standard. A fir was the top of the high quality gold. You get the time of Fair is the region where you get the high quality gold. And yeah, so this queen, not just the church. Now we're shifting to the church, or not away from the king, talking about the church and also Saint Mary. So we, in that sense, yes, we are like the queen. And then we want to, and we are a reflection of the gold of Christ. Verse 10, listen, daughter, consider and incline your ear. Forget your own people in your father's house. Just like Abraham was told to leave. And then when you have in the union, in the marriage, the two become one flesh. So they leave the father and mother. So it's the same theme there in like a wedding. And of course, as a monk, leave father and mother. And yeah, united to God in the one. So it's also viewed as the monastic is also viewed as a wedding. there, and it's important we do that. This is how we surrender to God. We surrender to God. We give up everything. We deny ourselves. And in a marriage between a man and woman, it's definitely they deny themselves as well. They're denying their will, and like in people that come amongst, they're denying their will and subjecting to obedience. Um, verse, and it's read in the marriage ceremony. Verse, couple of more verses to wrap up. The daughter Tai will be there with a gift. The rich among the people will seek your favor. Yeah, it's interesting because now the rich will will seek, uh, will seek. You know, like they're seeking the poor or seeking the rich. Usually, people. The point is, people really seek out the rich to become rich. You know, like the poor seeks the rich, or the average person goes to look the rich. They desire what the rich have, and people look up to the celebrities. They want to become celebrities and be rich and famous. But it's the opposite in God's eyes. The rich will seek the people who have the inner beauty. Who have the inner beauty. They will seek out the queen, the true queen. These are the true queens, not the ones that are famous uh, outwardly. The ones who are like royal daughters, royal sons, and become royal priests, even. Okay, so we see the universe there, and Christ loves to work in the universe, doesn't he? He really does. He likes to work in the universe, and it takes people that are foolish and ignorant to become wise men. Yeah, like in the verse, professing to be wise, they became fools. Became fools. So it's very prophetic. Um, and I guess what else to say? We're going to reign with Christ at the last days. Um, so your father should be sons, whom you should make princes on the earth. Yeah, we're going to become princes. Okay, we're going to princes. We're going to become queens, become kings. In that sense, we'll become royalty, part of God's holy family. And I'll make a name to remember in all generations. So again, we're seeing here that we are going to reign with Him, and we're attached to being remembered. That should be remembered. We're instruments. We're instruments. Like the priest is an instrument of the king. And yeah, I think the other contemplation is instead your father shall be your sons. What's this all about? So the fathers here is referring to the people who, like the Jews, they were replaced by the Gentiles. So at the beginning, Christ came. Christ was a Jew, came to the Jews, but they rejected him. So he came, and so the other people became the sons. The Gentiles became the sons. So those who are last shall be first. It can also refer to the apostles. The contemplation is referring to the apostles. And yeah, they spread out. They spread out. They're like the true children. They're the sons. They spread out their whole world. Yeah, and like we said, Mary. All generations call me blessed. Definitely, this psalm's definitely to Saint Mary. I'll make a name to remember all generations. And what did Saint Mary prophesy about herself? I will be. All generations will call me blessed. All generations call me blessed. You know, magnificent, magnification. Um, I think that's about it. Um I think the last thing just to say is that we want to be a true bride. We forsake the world, we forsake even family if necessary. Like, sometimes man's enemies will be within his own household. Forsake all the vain pleasures of the world, so that, and even like, yeah, forsake earthly weddings. It's not important. We want the heavenly wedding in the book of Revelation, when it says, when it describes the heavenly wedding, we ask so that we can reign with Him. Yeah, and you can read that for yourselves, as you know.